The best thing about Portland is the clean air.
The scenery.
Chesil Beach, the community spirit.
The isolation.
The best thing about Portland is the view away from Portland.
If Portland were a type of car, it would probably be a beaten-up Volkswagen Beetle that everybody loves.
Mark Steele's in town.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to Mark Steele's in town. This week I'm in the Isle of Portland, in a theatre, in a hotel that is converted from a Ministry of Defence building, the Portland Spa Hotel, which I'll be telling you about in a little while. Portland, the Isle of Portland, is on the bottom of Dorset, linked to the mainland only when a long road was built along Chesil Beach. And I think it's fair to say that people here like to think that they are on an island. There's a bit of a sense of, you don't want to go up Weymouth. It's a rat race up there. They got a post office, Greg's a baker's, all sorts, I don't trust them. Tom and Mary's boy went up Weymouth, look what happened to him. Come back wearing trainers. For example, there's a website where you can ask people on the island about the place, and I saw that one person had asked if there was a record shop. And I swear these were the two answers. One, there are people on this island who've never seen a CD. And the other, what's a record? For that matter, what's a shop? But even so, you get the young lads, I've seen them hanging around Eastern Square there, trying to look hard, sitting on their bikes, going, yeah, like, give it up for the ornithology massive. And there's even a word, Kimberlin. I love this word. Kimberlin, for people who come from outside the island. Now, that shows a magnificent logic, Portland, to have a special word for that peculiar minority branch of the human species that doesn't come from the Isle of Portland. And one word that sums up all of them. You could be from Paris or Ecuador or Bridport, Kimberlin. But mostly, certainly for anybody who visits the island, there is one thing that dominates above all else, which is, of course, you don't half like the quarry, don't you? Because Portland is a mass of quarries. Portland stone, people will have heard of. Everywhere you look, stone, 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 stone houses and stone monuments and stone statues all over the place for no reason that anybody can work out why they're there, except that there must have been a surplus of stone. And I bet after the pubs here, because there's no kebab shops, people come out drunk and go, here, let's build an obelisk. Portland must have the lowest sales figures anywhere in Britain of Wendy houses. Because the fathers would go, I don't see the point of wasting money when I can knock one up out of stone. Probably got the hardest kids in Dorset because they're used to going on bouncy castles made of stone. So this is a dramatic-looking island, the Isle of Portland, with cliffs and rocks and lighthouses, and it's the sort of place where you want it to be windy and see the waves crashing, I think. You know, you talk to people and then you think, oh, I'm not going to be disappointed with the wind then, because you're proud of your wind, I think, here. People saying things like, oh, this is the strongest wind in the Northern Hemisphere. This is that Hurricane Katrina. We wouldn't have bothered to get our kites out for that. But there's a brilliant thing that's happened to Portland because of the wind, which is, it means that the Olympics are coming here, to Portland. Think of all the places in the world that haven't had an Olympics, and you're going to get the sailing for the Olympics. Now, I have to say, I mean, I'm terrified, not because of the Portland thing, the whole thing of them being in England altogether frightens me. Ever since they were on in China, I was looking at it thinking, oh, no, they've got everything right and ready and everything, and we're going to make such a muck-up of this. The flame will go out on the first afternoon, and there'll be Boris Johnson wandering through the audience. Goes, anybody got a fag? Just You'll get nothing will be right. The athletes will have to run in and out of the diggers, and the swimming pool will have no water in it, and they'll be told to run backwards and forwards across the bottom, and I think, oh no, and the sailing will be out here, and it'll just be coming to an end, and it'll be, and someone will go, oh, blimey, we forgot to cancel the Guernsey ferry. So, and whoever wins the gold medal's going to get a shock, aren't they? There'll be some Australian up there sort of cheering and everybody just drifting off. Nobody clapping at all. There's the national anthem blaring into the sea and everyone going, "There's a Kimberley, isn't he?" But all of that, of course, is not to ignore that the biggest rivalry is with the real enemy, Weymouth. I can see it must be very frustrating for you here as well when money is spent on facilities elsewhere. I sort of think it must be for the authorities, for Dorset County Council. They're probably a bit contemptuous to a point, because from their point of view, it must be like when you have a paper round on a housing estate and then there's one house you've got to go to that's up a country lane and round the corner and over a beach and up a cliff. And the council must think, oh, sod it, I can't be bothered to go all the way over there. Can't they just grow turnips or something? I was reading a book about Portland by the local historian Stuart Morris, who I'm glad to say is with us. It was a lovely read, and I'm going to talk to Stuart hopefully a little bit in a little while. I especially like bits such as this bit from his book. He says, the Dorset County Chronicle remarked of a parade in Weymouth in 1863. Portland men were all half a head taller than Weymouthians. They are a fine, strong, healthy race, greatly superior in stature, both in person and in intelligence. So of all the quotes in all the papers in Dorset since 1863, Stuart chose that one. I love the idea that such eloquent language was used back in those days to justify irrational hatred, though. I wonder if that reporter was sent to cover other stories, such as a Weymouth village fete, and wrote, the day was blessed with temperate climes and much jollity was anticipated, but alas, the parishioners of Weymouth made a veritable pig's ear of the event, as to be expected from the short-ass, squat little Kimberley Neanderthal. There's a few people here from Weymouth, is there? Yes. And, oh, blimey, that's a frightening amount. That could legalistically count as an invasion. And Portland people, is there a sort of resentment about Weymouth? Would you rather sort of come under France? Do you know the mobile phone things? You know when you go abroad, when you sort of get off a plane or off a boat onto another country and it'll go diddly dip 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 on the phone and it'll say welcome to the country you're in? It does that here. So you are, at least in some senses, French. I prefer their bloody signals. I don't want Weymouths. So, all right. So, I mean, it's quite a friendly resentment, though, is it, presumably? I think that in one sense, as an outsider, I'd have to say the rivalry that you have, Portland, with Weymouth is one in which you win easily. There's one sense in which I am very jealous of you. You have got your own shipping forecast area. That is class. How many places? If I lived here, I'd listen to every single broadcast. Going, yeah, rock all, whatever, bloody Finisterre, hurricane, I don't care, get on with it. Go, Portland, get in! When people discuss the weather here with each other, do they go, well, might rain later? Yeah. It's 4 rising to 5, south by southwest. Visibility poor, clearing later, I hear. I went up the lighthouse at Portland Bill. That probably is sort of the main thing that visitors come here for. And it is very, very beautiful. And it's a proper lighthouse. And today I was sat there and it was really foggy. So the old horn was blaring. And there was a bloke there just buying some ice creams, a Londoner. And I felt so embarrassed about Londoners. Because I said exactly what he said. He went, oh, I'll tell you what, that bloody foghorn's doing my head in. Oh, Oh, God, how embarrassing. That's a London attitude. Yeah, all right, I'll grant you, it is saving hundreds of sailors from a terrible icy death. But it's hurting my ears. Give it a rest. And, of course, the marvellous thing, if you go up the lighthouse, the marvellous thing about the view from the top of the lighthouse is that on a misty day, you can't see Weymouth. But here is the real mark of your status as an island, more than anything else, I think. In Stuart's excellent book, he mentions at one point, monks introduced a furry little creature with long ears in the 12th century. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, what creatures? He doesn't mention the name of the creatures. And I thought, that's a bad bit of editing. What was this thing? And then it turns out that it is an extremely common animal, but no one is allowed to say the name of this beast on the island. And this, I gather, is taken very seriously, it seems. So we're not going to upset that here. So it's, to the extent, and I have to say to people listening, this is genuinely true, because you won't believe it. When the Wallace and Gromit film came out, and I promise this is genuine, in which this said animal was in the title, the adverts had to be redone for Portland. So just for round here, it was called Curse of the Were Bunny. What are you like? And what about when the word was said in the film? Did you have it dubbed by a local? So, oh, come on, Gromit, let's get to it and go and catch this blooming bunny. I don't mean to be rude here, Portland, but this bunny superstition is mad. You are aware of that, aren't you? I'm going to ask Stuart, who I've mentioned here at this point, what do you think caused this?
Well, I'm going to disappoint you because I do not know. It's a very well-established tradition that that word is never said on the island. It's meant to bring bad luck. I mean, the quarrymen would down tools and shoot off home. The fishermen would refuse to go to sea. The farmers would go home, leaving everything. It
was just a skive, then.
It is, yes. Oh, yes. It's,
I'm all for it, then.
The origin is... I mean, people say it was some of these underground mutton or Wilfrids, or whatever you'd like to call them, causing huge burrows in the quarries and threatening cliff falls. But I can imagine the size of a bunny that would be needed to cause any damage there. So I really do not know. I'm sorry to disappoint you. We Portlanders have always had a great sense of humour, and I suspect that some way back is part of the real origin of this
But what's the
story.
rules, though? Because can a Portland Islander say it if they're on the mainland? Is that all right?
Oh, no, they don't say it anywhere.
You can't say it anywhere. So how strict is this? Like, is the CCTV cameras following you about? And you called up to the Portland Island Council. We have evidence that you did while on a day trip to Dorchester. All right, thanks very much, Stuart. Thanks. There's something amazing as well, I think, about the ideas and the history of an island. I just don't think it could happen in a city. There's a historian, J.W. Garron, who wrote, at one time, 90% of the population of Portland had the surnames of Pierce, Stone, Coomben, Atwell, Flew or White. So nearly everyone on the island had one of 6 names. Now, that cannot have made life easy, can it? So everyone became known by their nicknames. Now, for example, a man called Fido Lunetz wrote in 1825 about a conversation that he'd witnessed. And this is his words. A gentleman made repeated inquiries after one James Miller, but his inquiries were fruitless. Meeting a man on the island, he asked where Miller lived. I don't know, was the immediate reply. There's no such man on Portland, sir. The gentleman added, he's also commonly known as Wapsie. Oh, Wapsie, replied the Portlander. That's my father. You're having a laugh with us, aren't you? Thomas Hardy wrote a book called, not one of his better-known ones, but he wrote a book called The Well-Beloved, set on the island of Portland. And his opening line in the preface goes, the peninsula carved by time out of a single stone has been for centuries immemorial the home of a curious and well-nigh distinct people, cherishing strange beliefs and singular customs, now for the most part obsolescent. That's 100 years ago he wrote that. Mostly, Portland is made, it seems, of stone. Now, coming from a working class background of my generation, I wasn't really brought up to appreciate the sort of finer elements of stone, to be honest. I think in my road where I was brought up, if anyone had built something out of Portland stone, everyone would have gone, oh, yes, and the marvellous thing about it is you can cover it in Formica and it'll be easy to wipe. But the Romans used the stone from Portland, the Saxons used it, then in the 17th century, 6 million tonnes of the stuff was blasted out from the quarries. Now, to a layman like me, I just think, 6 million tonnes? That must be a whole cliff, surely. I just imagine that after all that's been dug out, getting any more out must be just like playing that Jenga game. The quarryman just must be going, go on, we can get one more, go on, careful, careful, you don't knock that one, oh, blimey, the co-op's collapsed. At one point, every single man on Portland who wasn't old or was at working age worked in the quarries. I mean, the quarrymen were clearly tough. According to a man called Smeaton, who used the stone to build a lighthouse, the quarrymen were of a robust, hardy form. I asked my guide where he could possibly pick up such stout fellows. He told me they were all born upon the island. So you can be proud of that heritage. The only thing is that he carries on. The guide also told me many of these have never been further than Weymouth. They intermarry and rarely go to the mainland to seek a wife. I'm only quoting. 6 surnames, it starts to make sense, though. Does make you think that when somebody back then said, I won't be available that day, it's my sister's wedding, they weren't telling the whole truth. One of the biggest moments for Portland stone followed the Great Fire of London, because in 1673, a mathematician and astrologer called Sir Christopher Wren, probably just Christopher Wren at that time, was given the job of demolishing the ruins that was the old St Paul's Cathedral and putting a new one in its place. And he insisted that the stone had to be from Portland, and he came here to supervise the blasting out of the stone. So, by the start of the 20th century, the most celebrated public buildings were being built out of Portland stone. The Bank of England, Broadcasting House, most of Whitehall, bits of New York, later on the Cenotaph. But now the quarrying is causing controversy, of course, because the company wants to open up one more quarry because they are getting through all the stone. So now, this campaign, there's been a campaign set up, but I don't know what people think about it. I mean, what do Portland people think about this? Is the new quarry a good idea? No. You're pretty certain about this then? Yes. Because now we were talking to the one of the people, a manager at the quarry, and well, he didn't agree.
He's a Timberlin.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's from Exeter, in fact. They haven't got any stone. Is there a divide here between people that have sort of moved down here and people that have been brought up here at all, or do you all think this is just a bad thing? It's bad. I'd just like to speak to Hilda here. Hilda, who's been a reporter in Dorset. So, what is the main objection to it then? Is it that it'll be ugly, or?
No, I think that it will be ugly. It will take away their natural heritage. It'll leave a great big hole.
Do quarries leave holes? Not read enough about them.
When I came here at first, my arrival here was in darkness, and there were lights on in the shops, and I had come from a tiny village, and I thought I had arrived in the metropolis. When I came back in daylight, I thought, this place has been badly bombed. And nobody's bothered to do anything about it.
All right, that's brilliant talking to you, Hilda. Being an island that sticks out into the English Channel, you've also been important for various military reasons. After a breakwater was built in the 1840s, the new harbour meant that a permanent naval base could be set up, and soon after that, the invention of the torpedo led to a torpedo factory being set up on the edge of the harbour between Portland and Weymouth. Was that a good idea? Prince Charles did most of his naval training here, and did part of his naval training here. So did Prince Andrew. Prince Charles' first comment, apparently, when he came here was, so you all used to marry your cousins? What a peculiar way... peculiar way to carry on. Eventually, the naval base was shut down, which is how we came to be doing a radio show in this vast building that was once used for developing torpedoes. But, I mean, the brilliant thing, it does still look exactly like a Ministry Defence building. And it must be odd living here to see it still sort of so imposing and behind a big wire fence and looking down on you all as if I could see what you're all doing, Portland. And it's just everything about it as though they've done a marvellous job with converting stuff. You know, like the checkpoint is now a sauna or whatever it is. But having stayed here for the last day, I mean, it's very nice in many ways, but there's still something about it. You still expect at any moment a soldier to just pop up in the corner with a gun and go, "Put down the complimentary biscuits now!" So there have been hundreds of shipwrecks out there in the lethal seas around Portland. The biggest threat to life hasn't always been from the weather, though, out there, because this was a major area for smuggling. So, for example, when a ship, the Hope, capsized in 1749, the people of Portland came down to grab the drink that was floating around. According to one account, they came with knives, clubs and hooks, not with the dispositions of men, but as beasts of prey. At one point, 200 people attacked the crews of revenue officers. In 1778, even when the customs men captured a shipload of brandy and secured it in a cottage, they went back the next day and found that a hole had been cut through the roof and all the brandy nicked out of it again. But this is the attraction of the place, I think. I mean, the coast here is meant to be menacing. It's full of cliffs and caves and quarries, and it's not a place for sandcastles and crazy golf. Church Hope Cove, I went really early this morning, and it's brilliant. It makes you feel like 10, you know. You think, oh, I can imagine smuggling stuff here. There's a website championing the glorious walks here, and it says about one route, "We start high up on new ground overlooking one of the finest views in Britain, if you ignore the oil storage tanks." Every area should try this. Round my way, they should go. From the top of the car park is the wonderful view of Croydon. One of the most splendid vistas in Europe, if you ignore Croydon. Here, the walk through Fortune's Well is sold with the comment, "Once on top of the cliffs, the area is dominated by the Youth Offender Institution." I've no idea how effective the institution's been, but it was once a prison that had quite a few escape attempts. And after one of these breakouts, a judge criticised the prison as possibly being at fault because the night before the escape attempt, they'd shown the inmates an episode of Colditz. Now, as part of its penal history, Portland was also the last place that convicts saw, many of them in the 19th century, before being transported to Australia, most famously the Tolpuddle Martyrs, from Tolpuddle on the Dorset mainland, transported for forming a trade union, were transported from here. Now, I've been to Tolpuddle, and to be fair, there's not a lot there, really. I've always fancied going to Australia. I reckon them martyrs got off that boat and went, bloody hell, this is a result of that. And, as you will know, you do here have a bird observatory. Now, I have something to tell you here, Portland. The people at the bird observatory offered to take me on a little tour of their building. But when I got there, the man in charge said, "Sorry, I've looked you up on the internet and I don't think your sort of thing is suitable." And he refused to show me round. And I have to say, that is one of my proudest ever moments. As a badge of rebellion to be barred from a bird observatory. Did he think I was somehow in Al-Qaeda's ornithology department? What did he find on the internet? Is there another Mark Steele who's on YouTube stamping on puffins? But altogether, I'll finish with this, Portland. People have been very, very welcoming, very, very friendly. When I first came here and spoke to Hilda, and she was brilliant. And the timing on this was brilliant, because we said, so, Hilda, do the people of Portland have a sense of humour? And she went, no, dear, they don't. But she was joking, clearly, the Portland people have got a sense of humour. There's, as a result of that, I think that I'd like to end this series, because the last show in the series, of all the places I've been to, has been a sort of, what we've tried to do is sort of celebrate the sense of community that exists in places. And I think, you know, there's certainly a great sense of community here, the sort of sense of community I've been looking for. And so I think a sing-along really would be the ideal way to celebrate that. And I think we should all, therefore, sing along a great community song made famous by Chaz and Dave. Oh, she won't stop talking. Oh, why don't she give it a rest? I should just inform the listeners, I've just had £1 thrown at me. I've been doing this job so long, and that's the first time that's ever... Oh, don't worry, Portland. I'm trying to celebrate a sense of community here. The last thing I'm going to do is ruin the whole series at the very, very end by coming to Portland and saying rabbit. Well, thanks very much, Portland. Cheers.
Mark Steele's In Town was written and performed by Mark Steele, with thanks to Pete Sinclair. The producer was Julia Mackenzie.